In a bustling town filled with tall buildings and busy streets, there lived a couple named Chidi and Amara. They had been married for many years and loved each other very much. But there was one thing that made them sad. They didn't have any children. Chidi and Amara wanted a baby more than anything in the world. They would see other families in the park, watching children laugh and play, and their hearts would ache with longing. Every night, they would pray to God, asking for a child to love and care for. 5 long years passed, and still, no baby came. People in town started to whisper and point at Amara. Some even called her unkind names, saying she couldn't have children. This made Amara very upset, and sometimes she would cry herself to sleep. Chidi always tried to comfort his wife. "Don't listen to them," he would say, hugging her tight. "We have each other, and that's what matters most." But deep down, both Chidi and Amara felt a big emptiness in their hearts. They visited many doctors who gave them different advice and medicines. They even talked to old women in the market who suggested strange herbs and dances. Nothing seemed to work. One day, when Amara was feeling very sad, a mean woman at the market said to her face, "You're not a real woman if you can't have children." This hurt Amara so much that she ran home crying. She felt so awful that she thought about doing something very bad to herself. But then, a miracle happened. Just when they had almost given up hope, Amara found out she was going to have a baby. Chidi and Amara were overjoyed. They hugged each other and danced around their small apartment, tears of happiness rolling down their cheeks. Months passed, and Amara's belly grew bigger and bigger. Finally, on a warm, starry night, their beautiful baby girl was born. They named her Adanna, which means father's daughter in their language. Chidi and Amara couldn't stop smiling as they looked at their precious little Adanna. She had big bright eyes and tiny fingers that wrapped around their thumbs. They promised to love and protect her always. As Adanna grew, she brought so much happiness to their home. Her laughter filled the rooms, and her smile could chase away any sadness. Chidi would come home from work every day, eager to play with his little girl. Amara would sing sweet lullabies to Adanna, thanking God for their wonderful gift. Years went by, and soon it was time for Adanna's 7th birthday. Chidi and Amara planned a special celebration for their daughter. They invited all her friends from school and bought a big cake with 7 candles. The night before the party, as Adanna slept peacefully between her parents, Chidi couldn't stop smiling at his little girl. "Why are you smiling so much?" Amara asked, also smiling. Chidi replied, "I'm just thinking about how lucky we are. Remember all we went through before Adanna came to us?" Amara nodded, her eyes getting a bit watery. "How could I forget? People were so mean to us, but now look at our beautiful daughter. She's the best thing that ever happened to us." They both gazed at Adanna, sleeping soundly, her little chest rising and falling with each breath. Chidi reached over and turned off the light, and they all drifted off to sleep, thankful for their little family. The next morning, Chidi woke up early to get ready for work. He kissed Amara and Adanna goodbye, promising to be back in time to pick up Adanna from school. It was Friday, and he always took her home on Fridays. As the day went on, Chidi got very busy at his office. He had many important papers to look at and meetings to attend. Without realizing it, time flew by quickly. Meanwhile, at Adanna's school, the final bell rang. Children poured out of their classrooms, excited for the weekend. Adanna stood near the school gate, looking around for her father. She watched as her friends left one by one with their parents or older siblings. "Adanna, is your daddy coming?" asked her best friend Ngozi as she left with her mum. "Yes, he'll be here soon," Adanna replied, trying to sound sure. But as more time passed, she started to worry. Back at the office, Chidi suddenly looked at his watch and gasped. He had completely forgotten to pick up Adanna. He quickly called Amara. "Oh no!" Amara exclaimed when she heard. "I'll go get her right away." Amara rushed out of their apartment and headed towards the busy street to catch a bus. But as soon as she got there, she saw that traffic was terrible. Cars and buses were barely moving. "This will take too long," Amara thought. She decided to look for a motorcycle taxi instead, as they could weave through traffic more easily. As she walked along the crowded sidewalk, searching for a motorcycle, Amara suddenly realized something awful. She had left her purse at home. Her phone and money were inside it. Oh no, what should I do? Amara wondered, feeling scared and confused. She knew she needed to get to Adanna quickly, but she had no way to pay for transportation or call anyone for help. After a moment of panic, Amara made up her mind. I'll have to walk, she thought. It will take longer, but I must get to my daughter. So Amara began to walk as fast as she could towards Adanna's school. The sun was hot, and she was soon sweating, but she didn't stop. All she could think about was her little girl waiting alone at the school. Meanwhile, Adanna was still at the school gate. Most of the other children had gone home, and even some teachers were leaving. Adanna felt scared and alone. Maybe Daddy forgot about me, she thought sadly. Her tummy rumbled. She was getting hungry because she hadn't eaten her lunch. Adanna hadn't liked the food Amara packed for her that day, so she left it untouched. As the school became quieter and emptier, Adanna made a decision. I'll walk home by myself, she thought. I'm a big girl now. I can do it. So with her school bag on her back and her lunchbox in her hand, Adanna stepped out of the school gate and onto the busy street. She had never walked home alone before, but she thought she remembered the way. Adanna walked along the sidewalk trying to be brave, but the noisy cars and tall buildings seemed much scarier when she was all by herself. After a little while, her arms got tired from carrying her lunchbox. Suddenly, the lunchbox slipped from her grasp and rolled into the street. Without thinking, Adanna stepped off the sidewalk to get it. She didn't see the car coming around the corner. The driver, a man named Emeka, was talking on his phone and didn't notice the little girl until it was almost too late. Emeka slammed on his brakes, but he couldn't stop in time. With a terrible screech of tires, the car hit Adanna, knocking her to the ground. People on the street began to shout and run towards them. Emeka jumped out of his car, his heart pounding with fear. When he saw Adanna lying still on the road, he knew he had to act fast. Without thinking twice, Emeka gently picked up Adanna and placed her in his car. He knew he had to get her to a hospital right away. As Emeka drove off, speeding towards the nearest hospital, he prayed that the little girl would be okay. He felt terrible about what had happened and was determined to do whatever he could to help her. While Emeka raced to the hospital with Adanna, Amara finally arrived at the school, out of breath and worried. She saw the headmistress, Mrs. Okafor, locking the school gate. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Okafor," Amara said, trying to catch her breath. "I'm here to pick up my daughter Adanna. Is she still inside?" Mrs. Okafor looked surprised. "I'm sorry, but all the children have gone home. The school closed an hour ago." Amara's heart sank. But where's Adanna? My husband usually picks her up on Fridays, but he got busy at work. I came as fast as I could." Mrs. Okafor's face grew serious. She quickly called Adanna's class teacher, Miss Nwosu, and asked her to come back to the school.